This edition of Friday Night Primetime takes us to upstate New York, to Watkins Glen International, and to the second round of the IMSA iRacing Online Sports Car Championship. It starts in just a few minutes' time here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch, watch. Damn it. Oh! Get ready. Dude, heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yes! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, sexy. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. We're behind you. Go. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar. The in and out lap. What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International and welcome to the second round of the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship presented here on RaceSpotTV in association with iRacing on iRacing Live. It's Will Vincent. Connery Maddock will be with you for the 75-minute race about to take place. And well, Connery, here today, it's a little bit cool in upstate New York. Wind speeds are low. However, 3 classes going to do some fantastic racing.
And of course, one of the main features of this race is going to be that new and shiny GT3 field. Both the Ford GT and the Ferrari GTE cars new to iRacing, so it'll be fantastic to see how they wheel themselves around this epic racetrack that is Watkins Glen. And in terms of the balance of power in that field, in fact, is actually very, very close indeed. So expect them to be battling with each other on track quite a lot.
Indeed so. So here we are then. The grid up on your screen for you in just one moment's time. We're going to start then by having a look through your prototype field, and it's there for you up on your screen now. Frederick Evers with pole position, 1 minute 36.489. Marcus Hamilton alongside him on the front row of the grid. Fraser Williamson in third and Justin Weaver in the fourth position there, Connery.
Yes, and then it's going to be Evokta, Dick Reinhardt, Syandra, Andreas Werner, Cedric Bossier, Garrett Cronnath, and Cedric Lecomte rounding out that prototype field.
Then we head on back to your GTE field. Patrick Holtzman, pole position. He's in a Ford, but behind him, he's got himself 3 Ferraris. Note, though, Connery, there, the gap between Holtzman and the rest of the field, 0.6 of a second. That is huge.
That is absolutely huge, and well, the Ford GT, I would say, is one of the the harder of the 2 GTE cars to drive. And well, if you get it right, and it being so on edge, you can actually go very, very quick indeed, even faster than the Ferraris around this track. You see Patrick Holtzman, as you said, there's a huge gap over the rest of the field, which are mostly Ferraris. Then you see the next couple of Fords, which are 8th, 9th, and 10th respectively. So that could be interesting coming towards the end of this race. The Ferraris have better fuel economy; they can stop later on in the race. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yep, and there is your GT3 field up on your screen right now. 4/10 of a second then between Javier Uteras in the first position and Bradley Haley in second. Rick Garcia in third, Paul Darling in fourth. And there's the remainder of your GT3 field circulating for you now. We've got ourselves 9 drivers in that one. But to say, a big race. 25 drivers in total here today. They are getting ready to do battle around this beautiful Watkins Glen International Racetrack. And well, you see that the front class right now just working themselves out of the carousel down towards, I would say, actually one of the hardest corners on this racetrack, Connery. That very difficult turn number 6.
Yeah, very difficult, and we've seen a number of incidents there over the years, both in real life and in sim racing. That outside wall on the exit corner comes out on you very, very quickly. There's not a lot of runoff there, and as soon as you get into that little bit of dirt/gravelly stuff on the exit of the corner, well, then that could spell doom for the rest of your race.
Indeed so. As you notice already, though, there's also big separation going on between your 3 classes of field. 75 minutes worth of racing here today. That will mean there is going to be traffic coming into play, as we do often see at races around Watkins Glen International. Because this track is very narrow, some drivers are going to be hoping and wondering that they can get through traffic without too much difficulty. As we just turn our attention now back to your GT3 field, you can see there's only 9 of them, but again, they are well spaced out right now. Frederick Evers at the front of your field, just exiting the heel portion of the boot. Now, into the second most difficult corner, I would argue, on the track. It's uphill, left-hander, off camber. 2 more corners to go after you get through that one. But the final 2 corners, they are deceptive as well. It's high speed through this, the second to last corner. Then the final corner itself, you've got to make sure you get it right. So are you ready then? Let's get this show on the road, as we are now ready to go racing in the second round of the championship here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Riding the start on board with Frederick Evers. Green flag is out and we will go racing here at Watkins Glen International. Evers gets a good start in terms of your Daytona prototype field. As we have a look from above, they work themselves through turn number 1 for the first time. No issues there. Go back and we'll have ourselves a look in your GTE field to go on board then for the moment with Patrick Heinrich there. He has first place in your GTE field for the time being, as we're just going to ride on board of him as they work themselves up the hill for the first time. Your GT3 field, they have just got themselves going as well now, Connery.
Yes, they have. And I have just a note, going back to this GTE field, there's an absolutely huge gap between the top 3 drivers, Patrick Holtzman, Emanuele Petri, and Dustin Hickman, and that 4th place driver of Patrick Hinrich. An absolutely huge gap, at least of a couple of seconds on the start. And that is not what we expected.
Yeah, indeed so. And there we can see your GT3 class. They now work themselves. You've got teammates 1, 2, and 3 actually at the front of this field. Then 4th place is Paul Darling as they work themselves out of the chicane and down through the carousel for the first time in this one. Live timing and scoring will be available in just a couple of moments' time here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live at the front of your field. Let's turn our attention back, though, to Fraser Williamson. He's in 2nd place right now. Frederick Evers just around him. You you talk about the early separation here, and that's a good thing. If you get the early separation, it will help you because the draft is so prevalent in sector number 1, Connery.
Yeah, exactly. And well, if you're wondering what the huge gap was at the start of the GTE field, it was because there were huge incident in the final corner coming towards the Scar. One of the Radicals and line drivers, Ricardo Castellito, got a huge slide coming through the final corner, which isn't huge slide through there isn't unknown to happen, and just collected a couple of cars behind him. But going back towards this race, side by side now for the battle in your prototype lead. This is Frederick Everest getting passed on the outside, maybe by Fraser Williamson. Actually, Williamson's just going to back out of that one coming down towards the bus stop, but Williamson's making some gains early.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We just had a couple of sound issues there. As we just have a look then down in your GT3 field, as we're just checking out then Andy Purrs currently running ourselves P number 7 in class, and he's just currently working himself with Paul Richards there for that 6th position. And one of the things actually worth noting here, Connery, is the fact that Patrick Holtzman, he had that huge advantage in qualifying. He's actually, Syandra is on towards pit road, so we're just going to ride on board of him as we make this point here, Connery. But Patrick Holtzman had the huge advantage in qualifying. It'll be really interesting to see whether that will continue in the race, in that GTE race lead.
Yeah, I'm just going to have a little bit of a look at the lap times as they come across the line. Petri in that 2nd place in that Ferrari at the moment at 140.3. Your leader, though, a 139.8. So Patrick Holtzman still holds the advantage at the moment. But if Petri can stick with him, especially coming towards the latter end of this race, because strangely, the GTE car is actually going to run that fuel tank dry about 5 or 6 minutes before the end of this race is when they're going to pit, as opposed to halfway through the race like the prototypes and GT3s. If Petri can stick with your race leader, with the better fuel economy in that Ferrari, he can maybe jump him in the final pit stop.
Justin Weaver, by the way, just lost the car. That is down on the exit of, well, he's actually through the carousel itself. He's now down at the very rear of your prototype field. But let's go back and have a look at your GT3 field on board with Ruth Garcia there. And just worth noting that these top 2 drivers have pulled out now a 1.2 second advantage over the remainder of your GT3 field. You see the graphic there at the bottom of your screen. Garcia, 1.3 seconds now ahead of Bradley Haley. That is a teammate, of course. And then from Haley to Darling, well, it's a further 1.2 seconds. So your GT3 field is getting separated out early here today, as we're just going to show you the top 3 in each of your classes for the moment. Live timing and scoring, just to give you confirmation, is now available here on RaceSpotTV. So all you need to do is just visit RaceSpot.tv/timing for up-to-the-minute information about your favorite cars and teams. Dirk Reinhardt, P number 7 in terms of your prototype field. There we are, Cedric Bourzier versus Dirk Reinhardt. It's a 1/3 of a second that's going on right now in between these 2 drivers as they just work themselves up the hill towards that carousel. Reinhardt, a good run, but backs out of it down at the very last second. So he will remain in the 7th place for the time being. Does get a much better run though through the carousel, through the exit of the chicane into the carousel, and it seems to be Reinhardt's got the pace. He's just kind of waiting for the win, but he's got to be careful. Now he goes down to the inside, moves himself up into P number 6. That was a very easy move when all was said and done.
A very easy move, but a very late move. It seems like just he was waiting for the opportunity mid-corner and just slung one down the inside. Important to note, though, on that pass lap, Dirk Reinhardt did have a little bit of a spin. So this is him recovering from that unfortunate incident.
Yeah, and Garrett Connoff there in P number 8. He's looking to try and get past Cedric Bozier as well, as Bozier just pulls out a little bit of smoke from his rear tyres. Fraser Williamson at the very front of your field. Well, he's still within 0.2 of a second of Frederick Evers as they exit now the final corner to start another lap. They've had themselves 7 minutes of this race score complete. Williamson dancing to the right once. Ironically, though, by the time he actually does dance back into line, he would have had the draft, and he doesn't then try and commit to the move in towards turn 1. And now he's back to about 3.5 of a second back. Through the S's they come once again. Don't think there's really going to be a pass happening in towards the chicane, the bus stop. No, not going to happen. Williamson not really ready to commit to a move to take over the lead of this motor race. Maybe a little bit of fuel saving going on there. One of the things we do want to talk about here, though, Connery, is fuel saving in your Ferrari compared to your Ford GT. Now, the gap between Patrick Holtzman and Emmanuel Petri is almost 2 seconds on track right now. But we do know the Ferraris can be very good on their fuel economy. And this is one of the things that might bring them back into this race today.
Yeah, Ferraris are the best of the two GTE cars on the fuel economy. And, that means that when it comes towards the pit stop, we'll only be seeing one scheduled stop for all classes during the course of this race. When it comes to that stop, it could mean that if that Ford GT of Patrick Holtzman hasn't been massively fuel saving over the course of the race, it could mean that Petri, with the better fuel saving in that Ferrari, could jump in the pit stops. He needs to put in less fuel to get himself towards the end of this race, and that could give him a chance to take this race win. Yeah, and there is Petri, as we just ride on board of him again. The gap between himself and Patrick Holtzman actually now up to 2.3 seconds. Last lap time then for Patrick Holtzman, 1 minute 39.766. And you'll see by the graphic on your screen that it's anywhere between 0.2 and about half a second that Emmanuel Petri is losing. We've got ourselves a car spun around. That is P2, P3 in your Daytona prototype field. Give us an update, Connery. Yeah, it's Fraser Williamson having his own spin, no help from anyone else coming into the final corner. And that was actually on entry to the final corner, not the exit like we usually see coming through that corner. And that collected Marcus Hamilton behind. So that is shaking things up at the top of your prototype field right now. Frederick Evers now has a massive gap over the now second place driver. That's going to be Michael Ivoka. And then it's going to be Andreas Werner's just going to be following him behind.
Yeah, there's a replay then on board with Fraser Williamson. Let's listen in to him. One of these very slow spins. There's going to be a little bit of rear bodywork damage. Fraser Williamson now down into P number 6, but he has got himself going once again. Dustin Hickman in your GTE battle, battling with his own teammate actually, with Patrick Heinrich. These are two SimRC.de machines. You notice there that Hickman falling down into 4th place in this field as it is so far. That's the battle going on in your GTE field. The only retirees we have got is out of your GTE field so far. Cy Andrews trying to work himself back through some of your GT3 field as we speak, but we haven't really talked about the fact that Ruth Garcia all of a sudden has really pulled away from Bradley Haley. That gap's now up to 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, fantastic drive so far early on in the race for Ruth Garcia. Of course, he doesn't have to worry too much because the car that is behind him is his teammate. But there has been a change for position for the 3rd place in that category. Over the past couple of laps, Paul Darling has got himself up into that 3rd place over Yavi Utreus, who has fallen back quite a couple of seconds. We maybe have had a little bit of an incident in the past couple of laps that we hadn't seen. Meanwhile, Fraser Williamson is down pit road with a very, very damaged car.
One of the things that is worth noting here as well is the fact that this SimRC, not this SimRC even, this TNT racing car, now into 3rd place of Paul Darling, has kind of split what was a big lime green train in your GT3 field. As I say that, Bradley Haley comes on towards pit road. That's very early actually for a driver to come in. We've got 2 drivers on pit road by the looks of it. We've got ourselves Haley I'm not quite sure what I saw. I thought I saw someone coming towards pit road. Maybe he might have just messed up that final corner a little bit. Just get ourselves a replay of that. Was it me, or did he just completely... It looked like he was coming on towards pit road, I think, there, Connery.
No, that was actually an incident coming on to into corner entry for the final corner. A very, very similar incident to the one that Fraser Williamson had. Healy manages to hold it, though, with a slide coming through the final corner, but that does mean he's down one position on pole, darling up into the second place. Yeah,
I was thinking, why is he on the inside line going so slowly through the corner? What I didn't see on the first look, we see it on the second one as we go to replay, is that's the second driver that is taking a little bit too much of that left-hand curb coming into that final corner. And it seems to be that drivers are really trying to use every part of the racetrack here today. As we just cycle back, and you'll see that we've got Nestoris just moving past Daniel Neguris there, number 14 versus number 13 machine, as Nestoris will move himself now, for the time being at least, up into 4th place in that GT3 class.
Meanwhile, there's the battle going on for 7th place in your prototype field. This is Cedric Lecomte versus Connauth. Connauth's going to take the inside line for the bus stop, manages to take that position away from Lecomte, as Lecomte falls behind at least a second. He had a very, very compromised line coming through the bus stop that has put him so far behind, and now it gives an opportunity for Connauth to stretch his legs a little bit.
Yeah, it's having a ride on board of Lecomte there, and then you'll see as we have a look from our aerial coverage, this is the situations they work themselves up the top of the S's, down towards the bus stop chicane. Lecomte on the left-hand side of your screen. You got yourself Connauth on the right. Lecomte, well, he doesn't really go off track, but just takes the widest angle possible, and that costs a lot of time. That's the thing I'm thinking about when we get into a lapping situation, Connery. We will be in a situation where drivers will try and do everything they can to work through traffic, but it's going to cost both the passing car and also potentially the trailing car quite a bit of time, especially if it happens down into the bus stop.
Yeah, the bus stop is especially dangerous when you're lapping cars, because it's definitely a one-line section all the way through there. And as we've just seen with the Comte, if you're offline, you lose an absolute ton of time, on the order of seconds, if you have a weird line going through there. And I'm just having a look to see what the traffic situation is going to be with your prototype leader. Frederick Evers, he's just coming through the carousel right now, and the first bit of traffic he has to deal with is Javi Ultreas. He's just heading his way on the entry to the chute right now, so traffic isn't too far away. Meanwhile, there's a little bit of a train of GT3 cars just heading their way into the toe of the boot as well. So that is the first traffic that Evers has to deal with.
Yeah, and this is the traffic that we're talking about here. It is basically Nestoris, that number 14 machine, who leads that train. And then behind him, you've got yourself a number of drivers that are all battling it out. As you've got yourself then Daniel Rodriguez, Andy Pers, Paul Richards, Adam Paul, all there in that battle. As you'll see at the very rear of it, there is Adam Paul, and it shouldn't be too long. There you can start seeing now. There's your race leader, Frederick Evers, coming into shot. So he's worked himself already past one driver, that is Javier Ultreas, the number 9 car. Now we go on board of him, and this is going to be a fantastic onboard. Let's ride them for a lap on board with Frederick Evers as he starts to experience some traffic here in the second round of the IMSA Sports Car Championship here on iRacing. Just over 15 minutes of this race scored complete so far. And let's go and have a look down in your GTE field for the moment. There aren't really that many battles going on, actually, Connery, now I think about it. But Jack Sedgwick versus the number 4 machine right now. That is Dade Oparak. That is going on for P6 on track. And Oparak is just about holding on to that 6th position right now. It is 4th, though, versus Ferrari.
Yeah, the battle of the manufacturers right here as they head their way into the final couple of corners, into the final corner. Let's see if Jack Sedgwick can make anything happen coming into the first corner. Actually, that's Cedric Lecomte heading his way down onto pit road. That prototype driver perhaps having a couple of issues, since that does seem to be a very, very early start.
Yeah, it does. As we've seen him having a little bit of issues already in this race. We talked about it a little bit earlier on, actually. In fact, he's been losing some positions. And actually, I think he's just retired from the motor race.
Yeah, it looks like he's out of that car, and that will be the end of Lecomte's race. So that is such a shame. He has had a couple of issues early on. As meanwhile, we look back towards this battle between the number 4 and the number 7, Dade Oparak versus Sedgwick. Sedgwick had a little bit of a look coming down into the bus stop, but decided not to take it too wide through there. Now he's going to follow very, very closely coming through the carousel, taking a very, very wide exit. Oparak staying tight towards that right-hand side. Here comes Jack Sedgwick down the inside at the chute. That's going to be the position gained, easy as you like, for the Ferrari.
Yeah, up the position, moving into P number 6 for the Inex Racing Team driver there of Jack Sedgwick. Now, going to see whether he can close the gap. It is a 2.5 second gap to Sebastian Dunkel, who is ahead. You can see Dunkel there is on track in that number 3 car, running in P number 5. And then actually from Dunkel to Dustin Hickman, that is a further half of a second between those two drivers. SimRC.de driver running himself in the 4th place for the time being. Let's go back though to GT3 for the moment. This is Bradley Haley once again. Haley versus Darling is a battle that's been going on pretty much all race long. 2 Mercedes there, Darling in 2nd place, Haley in 3rd, GT3 field, 6 tenths of a second. And well, all of a sudden, it seems to be that we're getting ourselves these TNT racing cars starting to come into the fray. Now in 2nd place for Paul Darling. He is still losing time to Root Garcia. It's 5 seconds now, the gap between those two drivers, but it wasn't the kind of lime green coronation that we saw at the start of the motor race.
Yep, exactly. And meanwhile, there's a little bit of traffic, prototype drivers heading through on these guys at this moment in time. Marcus Hamilton, 2nd place prototype driver, just heading through on that car of Paul Darling. And that means that Haley's just going to catch up another couple of tenths of a second. He's already been doing that over the past couple of laps. There's another couple of tenths of a second to add to the bank as he tries to search for that 2nd place. Yeah,
Gil Guez, by the way, P number 9 in terms of your GTE field, trying to hunt down Maximilian Brennan. Not quite working in that battle for the time being, so we'll keep an update on that one if anything changes. The big battle we have got going on though is P2, P3 in that GTE battle. Let's go back on board then with Bradley Haley, and the last couple of laps, we can put that graphic on screen for you. Last lap, it was a gain of about 1.5 tenths of a second. The lap before, 2 tenths of a second. Little by little, Bradley Haley is coming back into this one.
Yep, he really is, and well, he's also within drafting distance. That'll help him down the main straight and the back straight here at Watkins Glen. But visually, that gap seems to be extending, at least in this first part of the lap. Paul Darling managing to gain a couple of tenths right there. Let's see what Haley does at the latter end of this lap, as he does decide to take a very, very late apex coming through the chute. That's not going to help him. Meanwhile, there's going to be Dirk Reinhardt just kind of going through on him right now, down the inside of the toe of the boot, and he is just going to sling one right down the inside there. Haley just getting way out of the way, and he's going to have an easy time with Paul Darling now, as actually Haley's going to be the one that's compromised the most from that prototype coming through on them. Meanwhile, Andreas Werner is also trying to make his way through on them.
Yeah, and something that we didn't see on our screens, again, there's lots of action going on track at once. Just want to bring your attention to this, and notice that Patrick Holtzman, lap number 10, 143.308. He lost himself 3 seconds there compared to the driver of Emmanuel Petri. That was because there was an incident between himself and a Daytona prototype car that took 3 seconds out of that lead. And well, that's the issue of multi-class racing. And again, we've got to talk about here the fact that, Connery, this track is narrow. And you don't often see it until you go multi-class racing, just how narrow this track is. You know, you can't really go 3 wide at any point apart from the start-finish line. You can maybe try and do it out the S's, but this track is not as wide as some of the other tracks that they race at in the IMSA Sports Car Series.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, that causes a whole bunch of trouble with traffic, as we've just seen. I don't think that's going to be the last incident that we'll see with lap traffic between Daytona prototypes and GTE cars and GT3 cars and every other combination in between that as well. Meanwhile, the thing is, Patrick Altman doesn't seem like he has a ton of damage to that Ford GT. He's still putting in some very competitive lap times at this moment in time, still faster than that second place of Petri. So he looks to be uninjured.
Yeah, we just see Ari Harrow is on pit road in his Ferrari 488 right now. So he's making himself a pit stop. We'll see. I mean, he could theoretically go to the end of the motor race from here on in. So we'll keep an eye out on that one to see how close to a regular service stop that was. I did see some damage to the rear end of that car a couple of moments ago. Cedric then in P number 6 in class, still trying to hunt down Sebastian Dunkel. Nothing really happening there, but Dunkel versus Dustin Hickman, that one is closing
problems
down
for the prototype lead. This is Frederick Evers having a whole bunch of issues coming into the final corner yet again. Exactly the same incident as we've seen happen twice before during this race. Taking a little bit too much on the entry, on the outside grass there. And that means Marcus Hamilton is your new race leader.
Yep, so that's right on board then with Frederick Evers. Show you what happened. You see that car was looking a little bit squirty as he came through 11. Then towards the second to last corner. And then this is where the issue is. Final corner. Again, just touching too much of that surface on the outside. Loops the car 90 degrees. Thankfully, that's where the runoff is. We'll get ourselves one more look at that one for you. And this is coming to say down into the final corner. We'll have a look then from our aerial coverage, and we'll just try and see if we can pause it. There we are. Just as he comes down into the corner, you just notice there's that grass there. Just as you try and come into the corner, that's where he loses it. And well, Frederick Evers is now down second place in class.
Yep, exactly. And it's weird that they've been having incidents on the entries of the corner, usually on the final corner here at Watkins, because of the track camera. Most of the time they have trouble getting the power down on exit. So entry problems is a very, very weird thing to have.
Yeah, but that's the third, at least, I think almost fourth time we've seen that on today. And I think what's happening is, as the drivers come out of that second to last corner, they're trying to move that car as far to the left-hand side of the racetrack as they possibly can to maximize their turning angle into the final corner. Let's go actually on board again with Evers. He's being a little bit more cautious now, but that's, I think, the fourth time we've seen that on our cameras here today. We know that a couple of other drivers have had incidents, but as you say, Marcus Hamilton now leads this motor race.
Yeah, exactly. And then, well, we will have to see if Marcus Hamilton manages to retain that race lead towards the end of this race. You have to remember, he did have a little bit of an incident earlier on. That means the front clip of that Daytona prototype is bent in a little bit, just right on the nose of the car where the radiator is. It's all crumpled. So that'll be hurting his straight line speed, hurting a little bit of his aero through the corners as well. So let's just see what happens between himself and Evers.
Battle going on, P2 in your GTE class between two Ferraris, Emmanuel Petri and Patrick Heinrich right now. Now, the battle between these two is very, very close. It's 4 tenths of a second. There is traffic coming into play here as well a little bit as they start working themselves through some GT3 traffic. And, well, this is where things become more complicated for this GTE field when they have to start trying to negotiate that GT3 traffic. We go on board then with Heinrich as they work themselves up through the S's towards the bus stop chicane. And, well, Heinrich, let's have a look at the last comparable lap times here. He is gaining minuscule amounts, but he's brought this to be back again a 2-horse race, Connery.
Yeah, exactly, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with this GT3 traffic as Petri almost runs into the back of Ultris. This may give Heinrich the opportunity. Is he going to look to make it 3 wide coming down into the chute? Definitely not, but he's going to follow his man very, very closely coming through there, almost giving a tap to the bumper, but that was a very, very scary moment between two classes.
It was indeed, as the gap remains about as is as they now come through toe corner. Behind, Dustin Hickman and Sebastian Dunkel are also scrapping it out. This is the difference though between a Ferrari and a Ford for 4th and 5th place on track. So all of a sudden, GT, after being a little bit lax for a few minutes here, Connery, has come alive.
Yeah, but it really has, and that may be due to the traffic, as I just saw Henrik just get a little bit of a power slide coming out of turn number 9 as he was negotiating some traffic. Meanwhile, the battle between Hickman and Dunkel will be coming up on the same traffic in, well, just about half a lap's time. So this is going to be getting very, very busy relatively shortly.
And it's worth having a look at the lap times between the GTE and the GT3 class. Now, we just saw on your screen 140 there for Dustin Hickman the last time around the racetrack. The drivers in GT3 are 5 seconds a lap slower. Now, that does seem like a lot until you remember the straight line speed comparison between these two classes of car isn't as big as what you have in some other circumstances. And a track like this, it will come down to acceleration onto a long, flat-out section of track. As Patrick Heinrich, we're back on board with him. That battle for P number 2. Emmanuel Petri just holding his own right now in that second place. You can't really talk about the lap times because they are working through traffic. Petri's going through traffic now. That's the number 30 machine, deep down to the inside. That is the driver of Daniel Negouras. And also Patrick Heineken able to do exactly the same down into that very difficult left-hander at turn 6.
Yeah, exactly. So they're still following each other within a couple of tenths of a second, even through all of the traffic. So that is going to be a battle. I think it's going to go at least until the pit stops. Not much time between these two drivers at all. Meanwhile, having a little bit of a look back towards that Hickman and Dunkel battle, they're just making their way through traffic right now. The next person on their target list to be passed is Paul Richards coming up into turn number 9. And this is going to be a tough place to get that pass done coming into the final 2 corners. Not a lot of runoff. Well, the track isn't as wide here as it is at maybe some other parts. As Hickman, is he going to get held up in the final corner here? Yeah, he just has to lift out before the braking zone of the final corner, so he's lost time there. This may give an opportunity to Dunkel coming down to the first corner, but no, Hickman's going to get the better acceleration off the corner.
You'll see on the left-hand side of your screen, Andres Warner is your biggest mover up in your prototype field here today. He's up 4 places. Dirk Reinhardt and Cedric Bossier, they are each up 3 places in your field today. Then to have a look at your GTE field, Patrick Heinrich, the driver in 3rd place, who we've been talking about quite a little bit here in the last couple of laps because he is so close behind Emmanuel Petri. He is up 4 places. Patrick Kabuntni there is up 5 places in 10th place. And then let's have a look at your GT3 movers and shakers, and you'll notice the fact that Nestorius is the biggest mover. He is up 5 places here today. No one else is up more than 2 places in that GT3 field, as Heinrich there continuing to work the traffic, gets a much better run actually through toe corner, but just can't put the power down on time because of that traffic on the outside of him.
Yeah, he's going to stick his nose up through here, coming through the heel of the boot, but he's not going to make the move. That is just to maybe scare Petri into doing something he otherwise wouldn't have done. But actually, Petri gets a much better heel corner there, as he'll just take them through turn number 9 now, just extending that gap a little bit. And that may be the breathing space that Petri needs at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's worth noting, though, there aren't really any battles going on in your GT3 field. So the GT3 field, they have spread out enough that you're not going to have the situation of a driver having to stay offline and losing too many positions. You can almost say the same for your prototype field right now. There's only one battle within 1 second. That is between the driver that we see on your screen right now, on Michael Evdoka in the number 27 machine. He's trying to close down Andres Warner, but Warner does seem to be pulling away by a couple of tenths of a second a lap.
Yeah, that seems to be the case for the closest battle in the prototype field at this moment in time. Other close battles, of course, does involve that battle. Oh, the battle between the P number 2 in the GTE field. That is going to be Henrik through on Petri coming down into the bus stop. We almost missed that one, but that was a late on the brakes for Henrik coming down into the bus stop, just forcing Petri offline. And we all know if you go offline at the bus stop, you pretty much have to surrender the pass.
On board though, we remain with Michael for just one moment in that prototype field, as we then just drop back then to have a look at these ongoing battles. And Heinrich, as we talk about now, up into that second place. He is by far your biggest mover in the field. Let's get a replay of that pass that he made. And he's done a fantastic job here today of just negotiating cars around him. And that was another just well-timed pass. You can see they clearly had half the car down to the inside as he comes down into the bus stop chicane. And just executed that one absolutely perfectly. Worth noting, of course, with Holtzman's issues earlier on, he's still only within 3 seconds of Patrick Holtzman right now. Battle of the Patrick, spelt 2 different ways, P1, P2, GTE.
Yep, exactly. And let's see if Holtzman is actually... Oh, a little bit of instant coming down into turn 1. This is between 2 different classes. This was actually Petri, the number 11 machine, having a little bit of contact with Kisgulu in that AMG Mercedes coming down into turn number 1. And I don't think Kisgulu realized that there was a GTE car on his inside. Tried to take the normal apex, and then it ended in that instant you've just seen.
Yep. And... that's the thing. These incidents, they seem to be one-ish, two-ish car incidents here. They're not the big ones that we'd often see when we've got really close packed racing, but it does have the opportunity to really put people out of races quickly. We are lucky, though, that we've only got, I'm just having a look through, 7 drivers out this race so far. To run through them, Dennis Grabowski, Ricardo Castraledo, Bruno Fontablia, and Ari Harrow. They are out from your GTE field. We got ourselves 2 drivers out from your prototype field. They are Fraser Williamson as well as Cedric Leconte. Seeing the issues for both of those. Garrett Cornrath, by the way, is still on track, but he is classified as 2 laps down.
Yeah, but he's just out there getting some running, perhaps getting some more safety rating before the this race ends. But he won't be challenging for that many positions. Yes, as Wilbertson says, I'm just here for the SR, and, well, not many people here just for the SR, but, well, that particular driver is because of that unfortunate incident.
Yeah, just having a look through then. Adam Parr in a freeway battle. Well, it's close to a freeway battle. He's got Paul Richards just ahead of him. That's P7 in your GT3 field. And then behind, you'll see that Yavu Torres, there is 1 second behind in your GT3 field. So even at the rear of the field, that's the best battle actually we've got going on in GT3 right now. Adam Parr, as we just have a look from our aerial coverage, coming down in towards turn 1, is also his teammate that he's hunting down in that Legends Racing number 26 machine. So the 25 and the 26 car separated by 0.7 of a second. Parr did drop back there that last lap.
Actually, he gains just a 1/10 of a second over Paul Richards last time by. So he's gaining a little bit by little bit by little bit, but that's not going to be enough coming towards the end of this race. Of course, the car ahead of him is his teammate, so he won't be as aggressive as he would be with a non-teammate. I'm just having a little look. Actually, the battle between Werner and Evokta is still on at this stage. Werner is just stretched out the gap by about 0.5 of a second last time by, but that still could be one that could set off some fireworks here. Meanwhile, Hickman and Dunkel are still very close on track together. Dunkel now within striking distance.
Yes, and we are also getting closer to pit stop distance here as well, as we will be, well, we are almost at the halfway point of this motor race. That'll be in about 2 minutes' time. And let's go back then to talk about this fuel-saving situation the Ferraris can do, which it seems silly, you're fuel-saving a 75-minute race, but it means they can go longer, Connery, and that will mean that when it comes to their pit stop, they'll spend less time ultimately on pit road. So, for Sebastian Dunkel, actually, you'd almost argue the worst thing he can do is just try and fly past that Ferrari 488 or Dustin Hickman and put away, because Hickman will just say, okay, you do that, I'll save some fuel.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a little bit of a look at the session results from previous races in this IMSA series, and it seems like the GTE cars actually go as far as they can on the fuel tank. Don't stop halfway. They stop around about 6 or 7 minutes before the end. So it's going to be a while before these guys pit, if that holds true for this race. Meanwhile, the pit window for the prototypes and the GT3 cars is going to come up in a couple of laps time, around lap 25, 26, 27 sort of area.
Well, yeah, and as we ride on board then with Michael Ifdoka, let's step aside here for a brief minute on RaceSpotTV as we get close to pit stops. You're watching Friday Night Prime Time. We'll be right back.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, here to RaceSpotTV. A couple of incidents that we've just seen here. The first one is the fact that we had ourselves an incident, the second time we've actually seen a solo spin for Justin Weaver. We've also just seen a replay of the driver of Andy Purz. He had himself an incident down at the bus stop chicane. What really happened in that one, Connery, was a prototype driver overtook him just coming into the bus stop, and then through the centre, it just looked as though Andy Purz just lost all of the downforce in that car as the prototype car just slotted into its dirty air.
Yeah, it could also be the fact that Andy Purz also had a little bit of a half spin coming down into turn number 1, so an absolutely horrible start to the lap for Andy Purz. Maybe that would put him a little bit on edge, and sometimes incidents do breed incidents, and that may have played a factor in the bus stop incident as well.
Yeah, and of course the tyres therefore would have been dirty, would have been hot. As we now have a look towards your race lead, you got Marcus Hamilton, you got Frederick Evers, they're going at it side by side, almost as they work themselves through turn number 6. And now they come down in towards toe corner. Hamilton, number 6 machine. Evers, number 22 machine. They're both due in the next 2 laps here. Business has just picked up, Conway, because last time by, actually Marcus Hamilton lost 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, that is a huge amount of time to lose in just one lap, and now that means there is a battle for the prototype race lead at this moment in time, heading themselves through turn number 9, this very, very long, slightly uphill, at least for the braking zone hairpin corner. And meanwhile, they've got a little bit of traffic to negotiate in terms of that number 14 machine as well ahead of them, as he gets way out of the way for the final corner. Hamilton having to take the very, very tight inside line, but look at this monster of a run from Evers. Meanwhile, the prototype race lead, Hamilton, is down on pit road. This is why he was very slow on exit.
Yep, so we saw that Marcus Hamilton diving on towards pit road. He is in for a service, and this is a scheduled service here. Pit road time showing up on your screen. 33 minutes remaining in the motor race, so he's going to take a fair whack of fuel here. We've also got Michael Evdoka on pit road, number 27 car. Just see that in the background of your picture. That is the green number 27 machine on pit road. So 2 drivers this lap then from your prototype field coming on towards pit road. We've have ourselves no drivers in that lead group of your GT3 division having come in. That was a 24-second stop there for Marcus Hamilton. It was an 18.4-second stop, though, for the driver of Michael Evdoka. Now, I'm wondering if Hamilton just overfueled this car then. I've only got one driver to compare it with, but the pit stop time was a full 6 seconds longer.
Yeah, that's very strange, but you have to consider that Marcus Hamilton actually had a little bit of damage to that front clip. We'll have to have a look and see if that's repaired. Yes, Marcus Hamilton's car is now fully repaired, so that is the reason for his long stop. He had to get that front clip on that Daytona prototype changed. Meanwhile, again towards the prototype race lead, Dick Reinhardt, pretty much out of nowhere, is now involved for this race lead battle.
And he's going to come on towards pit road this time by. So Reinhardt is in pit road this time by. Reinhardt then, he actually had a very good previous lap, 138.241. That's the fastest of almost any prototype driver that previous lap, as he now comes in to make his service. This will be a much better comparison as well in terms of the situation we talked about a moment ago with Marcus Hamilton. Anything less than 22 seconds for Dirk Reinhardt and Marcus Hamilton is going to be in trouble. Let's have a look then. That engine already starts revving for Dirk Reinhardt. He's lowered off the jacks. Fuel is in the car. 19.8 seconds. There definitely is a bit of an issue now for Marcus Hamilton with that 24-second pit stop.
Yeah, exactly, and this basically means that Dick Reinhardt is going to be ahead of Marcus Hamilton. It's an absolutely huge gap between them at this moment in time. It's 3.3 seconds on the relative timings right now. That is the margin that Marcus Hamilton has to make up right now if he's going to get at least second place. Meanwhile, Frederick Evers still hasn't come down pit road just yet, and so hasn't Andreas Werner. So we'll have to see where they come out to give a comparison between them and Marcus Hamilton.
Now, just working on Cedric Bossier, by the way, is on pit road for a pit stop. That is also in your prototype field. No drivers have yet pitted, of course, in your GT field. Frederick Evers will stay out and do another lap there. There are 2 cars going side by side just ahead of him. Let's have a look at these 2 cars going side by side. Try and work out who they are as they circulate down towards turn number 1. But Frederick Evers slides through that. That actually wasn't a 2 GTE cars. It was a GT3 car being passed by a GTE car. And now Frederick Evers going to have some more traffic as he works himself up the hill. I would have been potentially have come in towards pit road that time by. He does, though, just get past that Ferrari 488 on the run down into the bus stop.
Yeah, I think coming down pit road that time by definitely would have been the more correct decision, as actually when he was trying to pass those two bits of lap traffic in the turn number 1, Paul Darling actually ran into the back of the GTE car ahead of him a little bit, and no damage to either the GTE car or the GT3 car right there, but that could have been a scary incident for Evers. Having 2 cars of 2 different classes have an instant ahead of him, no one wants that.
Battle for P6 in your GTE class. You've got Emmanuel Petri there, down to the inside. And Petri's fallen back quite heavily from what we talked about earlier on. He's on a recovery drive now all of a sudden, that number 11 machine, back up into P6.
Yeah, he had that instant earlier on down into turn number 1 with a GT3 car, Nestora Circus Golu, and now he's on a recovery drive to gain a couple of positions before the end of this race. It doesn't look like that car is too damaged as a result of that instant, just some slight damage to the front left wheel hub on that Ferrari right now. But meanwhile, let's see if Frederick Evers comes down pit road. In fact, he does.
There he is then on towards pit road. And this will be the pure comparison, of course. Dirk Reinhardt, we have to start off by saying, is 2.5 seconds ahead of Marcus Hamilton right now. We won't get comparable lap times until Dirk Reinhardt does come past pit road, the start-finish line this time by. Then we can bring that one to you. Andreas Warner now takes over command of this motor race just for the moment, as Frederick Evers is in. Gonna get himself some tyres. Go on.
Yeah, sorry, well, but it looked like Marcus Hamilton actually did the fastest lap of the race last time by, so getting that damage repaired was definitely a good decision as far as lap times go with Marcus Hamilton. And now Frederick Evers is off the jacks. He's going to head his way out of pit road. Where is Dirk Reinhardt? He's just coming down into the braking zone of turn number 1, so Frederick Evers is going to secure his race lead right now. Dirk Reinhardt is going to be about 3.1 seconds behind, and Marcus Hamilton is going to be about 2.7 seconds behind Dirk Reinhardt. And actually, Dirk Reinhardt setting a very, very quick lap time last time by. It was 0.6 of a second faster than Hamilton.
So that is the majority of your prototype drivers having made a pit stop. Now we've basically just got Andreas Warner, who is going to come and pit in. This will be from the overall race lead, but we do expect Andreas Warner to fall down to maybe 4th place in class. It was semi close between him and Michael Evdoka for that 4th place in class, as also Justin Weaver is on pit road from that prototype field as we speak. No one pitted in your GTE class for a scheduled pit stop. No one's pitted in your GT3 class for a scheduled pit stop. So we're just going to keep our attention on Andreas Warner, and he is coming in this time by. So Andreas Warner is going to come in and make that pit stop in that number 31 machine. We're going to turn our attention back, though, to your GT3 field for the moment. Sebastian Dunkel is in that 3rd place. He has got himself... Sebastian Dunkel's in 4th place. He's got Dustin Hickman about 0.6 of a second ahead right now, as Justin Weaver, having come out of pit road, is just ahead of both of those two. Sebastian Dunkel, the last couple of laps, has been just nibbling away in that Ford GTE at the gap over Dustin Hickman. We talked about this one earlier on. Dustin Hickman staying ahead, though, of Sebastian Dunkel. And Dunkel's there trying to play his smart card, I would still think here, not allowing Dustin Hickman to do any fuel saving.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to mention. Because that Ferrari is so good at fuel saving by default, the Ford GT not so much. Dunkel, there's not really much point in him getting ahead of Hickman before the pit stops at this stage, because he can just sit there and save fuel and mitigate the damage that happens when those Ferraris pit, because those Ferraris are so fast in the pit stops because they have to put in less fuel. They don't take tires here, of course. The race is far too short, just 75 minutes, so just like 1.25 stints. So these tires definitely going to last to the end. Sebastian Dunkel, he's going to head down pit road.
Just to give you an update, by the way, Andreas Warner did come out ahead of Michael Evdoka. Evdoka has closed the gap down to 2 seconds right now, just below 2 seconds. So we'll keep an eye out on that battle. But Sebastian Dunkel is actually on pit road as we speak then. So Dunkel is in with 25 minutes remaining, that Ford GTE car, making himself that service. I'm sure you're going to say that's a little bit early there, Connery.
Yeah, I do think so. And, well, as the past races have shown, usually these GTE cars can go until about 6, 7, 8 minutes before the end. And we're currently 25 minutes and 20 seconds before the end. So is this a tactical pit stop for Sebastian Dunkel, Will? I
was thinking maybe he might try and do it, find himself some clean air and just blast out some laps. That might work out for him because there isn't actually any traffic within about 4 seconds of him either way. So now he might be able to do a couple of very fast laps to see where he's going. Here are your top 8 then in each of your classes. We're going to start off in your prototype class. Frederick Evers leads the way right now by 4.2 seconds over Dirk Reinhardt. That is the main battle that is going on. Marcus Hamilton is a further 5.7 seconds back. Andreas Warner is in 4th. Michael Evdoka in 5th. Andrew in 6th. Justin Weaver, Cedric Bossier. Then back to your GTE field. And we've got ourselves Patrick Holtzman leading the way by 8 seconds over Patrick Heinrich. Dustin Hickman in 3rd. Jack Cedric in 4th. Emmanuel Petri, Dako Opakak, Sebastian Filosa and Maxime Brennan. One thing worth noting, Sebastian Dunkel has fallen down to 9th, but he has made himself his pit stop. We have got the odd driver coming down in GT3. That is David Nestorius, Adam Parr, Andy Pers making themselves pit stops. We will expect, I would say, next maybe 4 laps time to start seeing some more drivers on pit road in terms of your GT3 field. Rick Garcia, though, leads the way in that GT3 class. Number 9 car now with a 9.4 second advantage. Actually, no, I'll take that one back. Paul Darling is on pit road as we speak here.
Yep, just getting some extra fuel towards the end as Paul Darling gets their car stopped in the number 28 pit stall, just at the back of the pit lane right there, just waiting for the fuel to go in. Is anyone else going to join him down pit road? No, Javier Treyes does decide to stay out. There's a couple of other cars coming as well. Does Paul Richards head his way down onto pit road? And that's the answer to that one's going to be no. Meanwhile, Paul Darling is heading his way off of pit road.
10.1 second pit stop for him. 33.7 seconds overall in terms of pit lane. That, compared to others, is actually the fastest pit stop we've had for anyone in that GT3 field here today. Don't forget, live timing and scoring is available. 22 minutes remaining in this motor race. Ruque Garcia then now has a comfortable margin. Going to be worth wondering when he actually does come on towards pit road. I don't think he'll necessarily react to other guys around him, but this is that window now for these GT3 cars to come in. They'll be due in the next kind of 10 minutes maximum, I would say, Connery. Then after that, the 10 minutes after that is when we're likely to see your GTE field in.
Yeah, exactly. As Roque Garcia is heading his way through the penultimate corner right now, we have to see if he heads his way down on towards pit road, as he'll stay tight right here if he's going down pit road. But no, he's just going to take the full exit of the corner. He's going to go at least one more lap. And meanwhile, pit road is a very deserted place at this moment in time. So we're coming towards the end of the pit stop phase for your GT. Well, you come into this is the early pit stop phase, I should say, for the GT3 cars, since most of them have not come in just yet, but some early drivers just taking the early gamble.
Marcus Hamilton has got within 1 second of Dirk Reinhardt right now. Let's ride on board with him for a couple of corners. This is RaceSpotTV Fan Immersion. Gap is down by a couple of tenths of a second, but not by too much right now. Emmanuel Petri is on pit road. This is one pit stop we do want to keep an eye out, because this is his only chance now, I would argue, Connery, for Petri to get a top 5 finish.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just going to sit there just waiting for the fuel to get in. He had a couple of, well, he had that early incident coming down into turn 1 with some GT3 traffic. He's going to head his way past the green cones right now. We'll have to see where he comes out. In fact, he's going to come out behind. No, he's going to come out in front of Sebastian Dunkel right there, just behind Maxime Briant. So he's in between 2 cars for position at this moment in time. But of course, those other 2 cars haven't made their way down pit road. Actually, Dunkel has actually made his way down pit road, and Briant has not made his way down pit road, so he has to be looking at Sebastian Dunkel right now. Meanwhile, your prototype race leader is just making his way through on them because he considers them traffic. Yep,
and of course now Frederick Evers is going to have to negotiate this traffic once again. And it's actually worth noting then, for the driver of Emmanuel Petri, getting out ahead of Sebastian Dunkel, he can classify that one in some ways as a mini win for him.
Yeah, but you have to take all the small little victories that you can get when you've had an early incident. So that's going to be one that boosts Petri's confidence, you could say. He doesn't really have to worry about Maxime Briant right in front of him right now, because Briant has to come down pit road at some point during the course of this race. There's no point in pushing the issue too much unless you're losing a lot of time. Meanwhile, your GT3 race leaders in front of these guys, Roque Garcia, and he has a considerable gap over the second place position in that field currently, as actually Maxime Briant's just going to squeeze his way through there at turn number 9. Petri looking for the opportunity to get past right now, but not sensing one at this moment.
As we ride on board then with Roque Garcia, and well, he's allowed 4 drivers to go past in the space of half a lap. That's really the story we have coming out of that one. No drivers then coming on towards pit road this time by, I don't think. We'll keep an eye out though on this Doris number 14 machine, because he is due in, as are other GT3 drivers in the next 2 laps, we would predict. But Nestorius will stay out again and start another lap here at Watkins Glen International. And let's have a look through your field. Oh, Hamilton right on the rear of Dirk Reinhardt. Marcus Hamilton right past Dirk Reinhardt. Replay of that one coming up for you right now, as we'll have a look as they work themselves up the hill. Hamilton, 3 wide situation, managing traffic, putting his car in the right place, and he just moves himself up a position. Simple as that.
Yeah, he's one of the best at those 3 things that you have just mentioned, as they negotiate the rest of the traffic that they were coming up on. They had a little bit of traffic that was a factor in making that pass happen for Marcus Hamilton coming into the S's section. Just that traffic just compromised their guy out a little bit. He lost all of his exit speed. That gave the run to Marcus Hamilton, as Hamilton negotiates Petri there coming into the heel of the boot, and Reinhardt's just have to get past him now coming down the inside of turn number 9. Easy said, easy done right there for both of those prototype drivers. But Hamilton now up into that second place. He has it's actually 1.5 seconds between himself and Frederick Evers, and well, that seems to be quite a large gap to surmount. But if there's one person,
it's not, because Frederick Evers had a horrific last lap last time by 139.6, 139.2 this last time by. Hamilton is almost a second lap faster right now.
Yep, so this is all very, very possible for Marcus Hamilton, recovering from an earlier incident and maybe taking this race win. That'll be one to boast about for Marcus Hamilton, but he hasn't done it just yet. And Frederick Evers has to get his mind in the right place right now. A couple of slow laps has meant that his race win is currently under threat from the number 6 machine. Meanwhile, Dirk Reinhardt is still there and still can play a factor in this race lead. The top 3 cars all within 1.5 seconds right now, or getting very, very close to 1.5 seconds in fact. So these 3 drivers, any one of them can still take this race win provided the right circumstances.
Roque Garcia makes a pit stop there. Total time 14.7 seconds on the guns, 38.2 seconds overall pit entry to pit exit. 2 drivers haven't pitted yet from your GT3 field. Reason I say that one is because Paul Richards is just making a pit stop as we speak, and his pit stop time 14.4 seconds then for him. We've got Jack Sedgwick on pit road though from your GTE field. This is a Ferrari GTE car, one of the first Ferraris we expect in pretty much all day there.
Yep, so Jack Sedgwick in on pit road, and well, Dustin Hickman is just going to stay out right now, and Sebastian Dunkel, where is he? He is actually, well, he was the one involved in the battle with Emmanuel Petri, and he has already made his way down pit road. Meanwhile, Jack Sedgwick is on pit exit right now. He's just going to come out just ahead of your prototype leader right now, but Frederick Evers will make his way around the outside at the first part of the S's right here, and well, Marcus Hamilton has to get by him very, very quickly if he wants to keep this his race win hopes alive. But luckily there's a back straight coming, and he can just get the overspeed coming down into the bus stop.
Marcus Hamilton versus Frederick Evers now down to just 0.4 of a second. Now it's a case of when will Marcus Hamilton strike. We've got ourselves 15 minutes worth of racing to go. You can leave it to the last minute in this type of series, see whether you can do it on the last lap, but I think that Hamilton wants that lead back overall.
Yeah, meanwhile, actually, your GTE race leader is in, Patrick Holtzman, bringing that Ford GT down on towards pit road. Meanwhile, Patrick Henrich, he is currently down at the heel section right now, and well, even with the very good fuel efficiency of that Ferrari GTE car, I don't think he's going to be close coming to well, his pit stop at the very end of this race. As actually Patrick Holtzman is going to go off and down towards pit exit, while Henrich is just coming through the final corner.
Just having a look then, and you just see a couple of pit stops coming up on your screen. Sebastian Filosa making a pit stop, 10.6 second pit stop for him. Doesn't hit when we talk about 9.7 second pit stop. So one of the things that's worth noting here, Connery, is the fact that despite the fact we've been talking about this Ferrari versus Ford battle, does look as though Ford has won that one here today. Everyone has now made a pit stop except for one person. That's a number 8 GT3 car of Jari Iturius, who basically now has gone 1 hour and 3 minutes in this motor race, as Marcus Hamilton also has just moved himself to the race lead. Replay is coming up for you now. Let's have a look as he does it, as he works himself up the hill. This is on the exit of turn number 1. Marcus Hamilton, as he comes through the S's towards the back straightaway. This is where he moves himself first to the outside. He's going to try and go the very long way away. And well, when all is said and done, Hamilton forces his way back to the race lead there, Connery.
Yep, and it was an easy pass on the back straight right there. Battle of the late breakers in a little bit coming down into the bus stop, and Marcus Hamilton managed to win that particular battle, and now he's going to focus on pulling out that gap towards the end of this race. We have just under 12 minutes remaining, and Hamilton, he's absolutely flying right now. He's already pulled up a gap of 0.6 of a second in just almost one lap alone. Bradley
Haley versus Nestorius Kizoglo in the number 14 machine. That one is only 0.2 of a second separating these two drivers, and this is for 4th place in class. And I just want to show you that battle, that move it and shaker list for your GT3 field. Note the fact that Nestorius is up 4 places in that GT3 field here today, and well, Kioslogo is actually doing a very good job now. He's trying to make it 5 places net gain here today.
Yeah, he's gained quite a couple of places, even though he got himself involved in an incident with another class coming down into turn number 1, and he's just trying to add one more position to that list by trying to get past Bradley Haley right now. It's not going to happen, even with the help of the traffic that just with the GTE car that just came through on them. Patrick Holtzman, your current GTE leader. So this battle is just going to stay as it is just for the moment as they head their way across the start-finish line.
Dirk Reinhardt versus Frederick Evers, 0.2 of a second separating them. I thought I saw a little half move down to the inside into the second to last corner there, but we didn't quite see one. Reinhardt is keeping the pressure on Frederick Evers right now, so the two teammates out front in your field may not be the same as we come down into the last 10 minutes. Reinhardt through turn number 1. Does seem to be that car's a little bit more stable on the rear for the number 16 car. But let's see if he's got the grunt as they work up the hill, because Evers won't have the draw from his teammate. And this one now Reinhardt to really run on the rear as they come down towards that bus stop chicane. Reinhardt almost bump drafting Evers as they come down into the bus stop. Doesn't make the move.
Yeah, but he had a little bit of trouble on the exit of the S's because of that prototype car. Fred Evers being right in front of him. He wasn't able to carry the momentum around the outside, so he had to lift out a little bit, and then decided to do, as you say, a little bit of NASCAR bum drafting. Of course, NASCAR do come to this track, but not usually in these cars.
No, they don't. Dirk Reinhardt then remains in third place in that prototype class. These are the battles then to think about in the last 10 minutes of this motor race. This is the key one. Reinhardt versus Frederick Evers, overall third place in your prototype class. Then you've also got yourself Emmanuel Petri trying to work himself back for the field. Dustin Hickman is his next target, and the gap there for Petri is 1.2 seconds. So that's the battle going on in GTE, as we've just seen Yava Uturis finally making his pit stop there. 8 minutes 55 seconds to go in that number 8 GT3 car. Well, he's going to come out in 5th place, but the battle is actually just ahead of him. Nestorius versus Bradley Haley. That is for 3rd place now, and the final step on the podium in GT3.
Yeah, but let's see if Kiscolo gets a good run coming out the S's here. He does have the benefit of the draft coming down into the bus stop. He moves towards the outside line because defensive inside line for Haley at this moment, but it looks like that move is not going to happen just yet. Meanwhile, we still have Volteris having come down pit road. He's going to be trying to gain on these guys, and there's a little bit of GTE. There's a GTE car trying to come through on these guys coming down on the inside, coming towards the chute as well. So he will split up this battle just for the moment as he gets held up a little bit by Haley coming through on the exit of the chute, and that's, as I said, is going to split up this battle. And now that means Altreus is actually getting very, very close to the back of Kiscolo.
We stay on board then with Kiscolo as they work themselves now towards the hill corner. Nestorius not quite able to really make a move as they will come down into the hill corner. Hellenic Racing Team then 4th place. Bradley Healy just ahead of him. Back in that kind of lime green sandwich we're talking about being at the front of your field at the start of this motor race. Sebastian Filosa has got himself a 0.6 of a second deficit now to Dado Opakak, and I'm just wondering whether that was pure pace. Of course, we know Filosa's had some issues previously in this race today. That is why the gap now is Sebastian Filosa really trying to hound down Dado in that number 4 car and the remaining 7 minutes in this motor race.
Yeah, almost a second was the advantage to Sebastiano Filosa that last time by, and they had a little bit of prototype traffic trying to come through on them. That was Michael Evokta, as going to be very, very close coming through the final corner. Filosa taking the tight inside line with the prototype heading towards pit road. That was almost a very scary moment for both drivers involved. Filosa taking it side by side with Dado Opka coming down the main straight. It's going to be battle of the late breakers coming down into turn number 1 as the 4GT just weaves a little bit in the braking zone. Filosa is through on him though.
Yeah, so Filosa moves himself up into 7th place in class. That are going to have to fall down into 8th place for the time being. Will there be any retaliation as they work themselves up the hill? Well, we're going to find out now. Here comes the 4GT. Looking to the outside. So work themselves potentially 2 wide, 3 wide. Threading the needle, tries there. The driver, Adado, not able to do so there. Traffic, I think, did play a big issue there.
Yep, and Dado Opka spinning on the exit of the bus stop. What has happened there? He clipped the inside of the second curb just a little bit too much. In fact, he was sliding even before then, so that basically exacerbated the issue. And that is Dado Opka around, and he tagged his rear end on the Armco barrier there as well. So damage to the rear spoiler of that number 4 machine, and it was going so well for Dado Opka up until then. He was running so high up the field.
Yeah, and he's fallen down to P number 8 in class already. Let's go back and have a look. Dirk Reinhardt, by the way, is up into 2nd place now in your prototype class. And get this, he's also put 4 seconds over Frederick Evers, just in the time that we've been away.
Yeah, exactly, and well, that is all that Dirk Reinhardt basically needs. That's almost a 4-second gap at this moment in time, and Max Hamilton is, I think it's going to be a little bit too far ahead for Dirk Reinhardt to do anything about him. Meanwhile, Evokta is down on towards pit road, and well, that is definitely not a scheduled stop. Something may have happened to Evokta.
We'll keep an eye out, shall we? We'll keep the eye out. As just down to your GT3 battle for the moment. You got Nestorius still, of course, with Bradley Healy. That one's going on for 3rd place in class. Nothing's really changed, though, between them. And again, traffic is becoming a big factor. As we're just having a look then. Prototype overtaking GT3 cars. And then you got GTE cars also overtaking GT3 cars. It's that nightmare situation, especially if you haven't put a foot wrong all race and you're now down to the last 5 minutes to go. You don't want it to be thrown away for you.
Yeah, you just have to be very careful. It demands that mutual respect between the two classes to make sure all the passes are safely communicated and executed, as Frederick Evers will get his way around the GTE car of Patrick Henry for the P2 GTE car right now, and he is safely through on those guys right there. Meanwhile, this battle between Syandra and Bozier is actually still on. It's within about a second at this point in time. This is actually towards the back of your prototype field. This is P number 6 and P number 7 in the prototypes.
Syandra last time by 139.843 for Cedric Bozier 140.672. That is that battle going on in your prototype division. All the battles apart from that really have dried up in prototype. The key ones we're looking at is in GTE right now and also in GT3. We've been running aboard of Nestoris for the last couple of corners, as we'll now just turn our attention back to your GTE field for the moment. And well, let's go and turn our attention over to that third place battle, Emmanuel Petri. He's not been able to close up to Dustin Hickman. In fact, one could argue he's lost a little bit of time over the last couple of laps.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he gained a 10th last time by, but that doesn't seem to be the overall trend. Meanwhile, I'm looking back towards this prototype race lead, in fact, because Dirk Reinhardt was about 7-8 tenths of a second faster than Marcus Hamilton last time by. And if that happens at least one more time during the course of this race, then Dirk Reinhardt may have an opportunity coming towards the end. But the thing is, Marcus Hamilton doesn't really have much traffic to deal with coming towards the end. So it's something to consider, though.
We'll turn our attention over to it for the moment, because there is the battle on your screen. 1.1 seconds then, with 2 minutes just over remaining on the play clock for us. So, white flag will come out next time by. That one's confirmed already, Connery. Not this time by, next time by, white flag is coming out.
Yeah, exactly. And the lap times last time by, yet again, it's going to be a gain for Dirk Reinhardt. About 4 tenths of a second last time by. And, well, 4 tenths this time and 4 tenths next time is still not going to put him in the position to take this race win. He needs a little bit more.
Or traffic, or sputtering, or something.
Yeah, exactly. But the next bit of traffic is going to be your current GT3 leader. That is Roque Garcia. And then it's going to be your GTE leader in Patrick Holtzman. So those are the only 2 cars, I think, in the next 2 laps that Marcus Hamilton may be catching up on. So it's going to have to be raw pace, we suspect, from Dirk Reinhardt to get himself back with an opportunity for the race win.
Yeah, just having a look at Holtzman there, you can see him then. He will claim the white flag in a couple of moments' time as well. Holtzman, number 1 for GTE car, and he's maintained that big advantage over Patrick Heinrich right now. There's the last couple of lap times on your screen at the bottom for you. Heinrich there's lost 5 seconds in 2 laps. That's worth thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Dirk Reinhardt did get held up by the GT3 car of Roque Garcia. I think that spells the end of his race win chances, unless something happens to Marcus Hamilton. I don't think he'll catch Patrick Holtzman by the end of this race, so I don't think there'll be any traffic for Marcus Hamilton to deal with coming towards the white flag lap. White flag in the air last time by.
So here we are then, one more lap around Watkins Glen International. Marcus Hamilton still has the race lead in terms of your overall victory and prototype division. In terms of your GTE field, here's a look at Patrick Holtzman with a huge advantage over Patrick Heinrich and Jack Sedgwick. Rip Garcia versus Paul Darling. That is P number 1 and 2 in the respective class there. So now it's down to half a lap for Marcus Hamilton as he just works himself on the exit of the carousel towards turn number 6. Let's listen in with him for a few moments. Emmanuel Petri is also still thinking about trying to make the pass happen in GTE. That one's been going on for far too long. So of course we've also got Brandon Haley versus Nestorius. That one still also going on at the end of the motorway. So they're the battles that we've been talking about earlier. Marcus Hamilton now, just 2 corners to go as he works himself into the second to last corner, in towards the final corner. Marcus Hamilton, number 6 machine, will win here on Friday night prime time. He will claim victory over Dirk Reinhardt by 1.2 seconds in your prototype field. Next is Emmanuel Petri. Let's see if he can do anything with just 3 corners to go. I don't think the answer is gonna be yes to this one, because Emmanuel Petri isn't quite close enough. That is for P4 in your GTE field. It looks as though that Petri will have to hold on to P number 5. And then we've got ourselves Bradley and Nestorius, and Bradley's got that one there, Connery.
Yeah, and a little bit of lap traffic did spoil that battle coming towards the end. Jack Sedgwick just slotting his Ferrari in between those 2 GT3 cars, and well, that was secured for Bradley Healy when that had happened, and everyone else is just coming across the line, and it might be time to get some official results.
It is indeed. Let's start by having a look at your prototype field here this evening, and there it is for you. Marcus Hamilton wins by 6 tenths of a second over Dirk Reinhardt. Frederick Evers in 3rd in your prototype field, of Andres Warner in 4th, and Cedric Bozier, who rounds out your top 5. There is your prototype field. Up for you, 11 drivers. Fraser Williamson coming home 9th after issues earlier on today. There is Patrick Holtman, then, who wins out in terms of your GTE field. He doesn't win it by a lap, it's just our timing and scoring. Actually, the gap was a little bit closer than that when all was said and done. It was a little bit closer to about 15 seconds. Jack Sedgwick in 3rd, Dustin Hickman in 4th, Emmanuel Petri rounds out your top 5. There is a look at your GTE results, and then finally to think about GT3. There you'll see it right now. Root Garcia wins out by 7 seconds over Paul Darling. Bradley Haley in 4th. Nestorius Kizoglu in the 4th place, and Yave Yuturas there in P number 5. Well, they are our results. We'll step aside for just one moment, back with more. You're watching RaceSpotTV Friday night prime time from Watkins Glen International.
Get ready, going green. Green, green, green.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got time for on Friday Night Prime Time this week from the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship. Don't forget, you have the opportunity to vote for what we show on select weeks of this Season 3. For more information, visit RaceSpot.tv/primetime. Connery and myself back next Friday, where we've got more fantastic racing action coming to you from myself, Will Vincent. Connery and Maddock will talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.